All right. Thanks for everybody for coming. And this is, like I said, it's going to be a challenge for me. And hopefully at the end of this, we'll all be a little bit wiser. And hopefully some things that I espouse to you that you can use, other things you may not. But at the end of the day, I just want it to be hopefully worthwhile for everybody. So. All right, the goal for the clinic is to empower you to be your horse's advocate by building a wellness program. And so the kind of the thing that I've seen in the industry is just this, the horse is doing great, and then all of a sudden there's a problem. And so I've always kind of seen what I do is trying to be like the consistency, like if I see them every so often, once a month, the program, that I'm seeing the changes. We all have patterns that these horses have, and that's why like the evaluation sheets I leave, sometimes people get a little anxious, like it's like they should be blank. They never will be blank, just like our bodies will never be. They all have a pattern that they run into. Somebody's coming in. So, okay. So anyway, that's really what I want to, hopefully at the end of the day, that you'll be more aware of your horse's body. And it's just going to help you in riding, I think, because I don't have that portion of it. I feel like I've been around horses a long time, but I don't have that synergy with them riding, but I have it on the ground. And that's something that I see that I think would really benefit riders, is to have that, be able to communicate on the ground as well as in the saddle. Okay. So people ask me, when did I start doing this work? And sometimes I feel like that's about what I was about, I think 5 or something. That's down in Hialeah, Florida. That's my sister, Bunny, back there. But she had horses, and when I was a kid, I used to go to Homestead, Florida. She had a little farm, and that's why I did some trail riding when I was like 14 or whatever. And that's kind of the extent of my riding career. Okay. Next. Okay. So the benefits of massage is, I'm sure that a lot of the basics is increases blood and circulation. Lymphatics is a big part of that. Reduces inflammation. Inflammation to me has always been the enemy that we're fighting, because it eventually leads to problems down the road. Compression, inflammation. It increases range of motion, which is always great, the more space you create. Reduces stress. The endorphins, the chemicals that are released in the body, the touch, and even in the human side of it, it's always a big proponent. They use that a lot for, it's just stress relief. Being around animals it's always been a stress release for me. Just trying to be with them and not trying to be at them or whatever. And then after injury, you see a lot of these horses that are in the stalls. What can I do to help facilitate their well-being? If they have to sit in the stalls for a while, their lymphatics aren't working as well. And this type of work, what I'll be showing you this afternoon, will create that pumping action that will really help with the lymphatics, keeping their body healthy. I always call it changing oil. It's maintenance. It's like, we don't wait till our car starts smoking before we change the oil, because usually the problem has already occurred. And that's kind of what I look at, what the massage and body work does. It helps to take things cramped, especially with these athletes. You ride, they do things that they normally wouldn't do, and they get problems, they get stressed out, they fall down in a paddock, and you're bringing it back down to a level that is not as critical. So next, please. Okay, so in a lot of this, what I'm going to talking about is just my years of time in the field. It's over 25 years. I look at it and I think, I can't believe I've been doing it this long. But you keep your head down sometimes and you just get into it, and before you know it, it's gone by. So, I'm an expert at my own opinion, and that's kind of what, so hopefully it'll be, some of it, like I said, it'll ring with you guys or whatever. So anyway, next, please. Integrating a wellness into your horse's care regimen. Massage and stretching, combining other therapies, chiropractic and the such, and health and wellness and activities. So I get questions, how often can you massage your horse? I'm assuming, working. I generally work on the horses about once a month in my program to kind of see how are things going. But for people, if you doing some of the work that we're going to do, it's unlimited. You can do it whenever you want to. You can't do it really too much. How often do you do the stretches? And a lot of it depends on how often you're riding. Typically carriage stretches or some of the other stretches will be typically 2 or 3 times a week. If you're riding 5 times a week, 6 times a week, 2 or 3 times a week I think is good. And when do you stretch the horse? Generally, the only time you wouldn't stretch them is just like when people get out of bed in the morning. They say, I start stretching right when I get out of bed. And it's like, you're probably not doing the best thing that you could do for yourself. It's best to get your body temperature up a little bit, walk around an hour or so, and once your core temperature gets up, you can start doing some stretching. If a horse, you got them in the stall, you feel like you want to do something, get them out, walk them around the barn a couple of times, get their heart rate up, and then you can start doing it's going to be more effective that way. It's going to be easier for them, and it's going to make more sense. And after, with dressage, it's a little different. Stretching after the show or before the show. Typically with dressage horses, if they're not used to it, I wouldn't mess with them a day before the show. But if they're used to the work, and the stuff I'm going to be showing you it's not that invasive, so it probably would be beneficial. And typically after the show, usually after a day or two after the show, when things kind of calm down and stuff like that, and also a lot of times I'll show up at the barn because I never know, what's happening. There's some construction going on, there's weed eaters, there's being feed time, and typically the best time to do it is when they're calm and they're not worried about their buddy out in the field that they can't see, because it's futile. So you kind of have to work around their schedule to some degree. And also, sometimes they may be a little sore afterward. It might be a day or two later that they may be a little off, because if you're doing some of the stretching and stuffing regularly, it'll get better, but it's not uncommon to see them a little weird the day or two afterward. And like I said, I'm looking for consistency, and that's what I want, hopefully, you all to see, is that, this was fine the last, how many times I've done it, all of a sudden something's starting to change. And a lot of times, I'll ask the question, it's like, well, has anything changed? And I say, well, not really. What's her name rode my horse and she used her saddle, for 3 days. And I said, okay, I can see that. Or, the farrier came and floated his teeth, or not farrier floated his teeth, the dentist came and floated his teeth, or he got new shoes, or he had new shoes, he took shoes off, or new hardware, stuff like that. And usually I'll see a benefit, or I'll see something that's showing up that, it's a little bit, it shouldn't be there. And typically there's usually something that's been going on. So, and that's one of the things that I find calling out is, and being able to see that when it's coming. Okay. So acupuncture, chiropractic, pole, training, pole walking. I'm a big advocate for poles and the such. Acupuncture, a lot of times the people that do and I came from the human side of it, just typically you wouldn't get a massage. Acupuncture is usually 24 hours, 48 hours window where they get acupunctured, and you're not getting massaged 24 hours before or 24 hours after it. So acupuncture is a little different from the way I was trained, and some of the things that I was told that you can kind of mess up the way acupuncture works, the meridian lines and interface and stuff like that. So in chiropractic, I think works really great with massage. From my point of view, it's better to get, if you're going to, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Most of the time it doesn't. But ideally, for a person to massage to get worked on the horse, and then chiropractic that day or the day after, is to me the biggest bang for the buck, because massage is going to help to loosen the body's tissues to be able to accept the adjustments better and hold better. And then training, I brought a couple of books with me. That there's one of 55 exercises for the horse, and which has a lot of great information in it about certain specific problems you might be having and different types of things that you can do, I think is really, really good. And then you have, to me, turnout. And I know here at the farm, these guys get lots of turnout. And that's the best medicine, really. I mean, it's funny, you go to the barns and tell the horses don't get turnout as much, and ones that just have great turnout. And they're just happier horses. And they are always generally happy here. I mean, it's a very open, you don't feel that tension or whatever in there. So, and then the PEMF, I don't remember what the things do, but you mean the wand, the electromagnetic pulse thing. I think it's great for, especially in the human world, for creating that relaxation effect in the tissue, especially the parasympathetic, turning that parasympathetic on to relaxation. And that's a big thing for horses, since they are fight or flight animals, and they're very sensitive to their surroundings. So anything that can do that, even at the show or whatever, I think PMF does really, really well with that. Sure.
Is that what the Beamer is? The version of that?
Yeah, I think the Beamer has that technology in it.
It's not as intense as like the leaps.
Yeah, they talked about the blankets being a little bit less than the loop, and the intensity, because it's kind of a generalized thing. So, and I've got and training lunging, and how and like I said, talking to getting your trainer and working through however that needs to be. All right. Let me get a quick sip of drink here. Thank you. I'll try. So, proper health and wellness. There's a podcast I've been binge listening to. Her name is Dr. Audrey DeClue. She's down in Ocala, sport horse.
Oh, Audrey. I know Audrey.
You know Audrey?
Yes.
I found her podcast, and I've been binging it. And it's the way she approaches horses.
How do you spell her last name?
DECLUE, and her podcast is the Horse First podcast, but her website.
Super passionate.
Yeah, but her perspective, it is helping me link what I've been doing and the way she approaches horses, and all she does is sport horses down in Ocala. And that podcast has been amazing for me, because she doesn't get into the weeds of the jargon and stuff, but she just lays it on the ground for everybody to understand. That's what I love about it. She's super, and she puts a lot of emphasis on. Usually the problems that she runs into are equipment, saddles, girths, bridles, surcingles, things that cause irritation, that causes changes in the body, that causes problems that end up in legs, over time. And so because there's, especially when we're working in areas that are very sensitive, that can get turned off, because all that equipment is right in those transition areas, up at the pole, under the girth. There's all these big nerve endings and vasculation, blood flow areas. So she's just been really, really good at that. And teeth, because I always go into the teeth thing with folks, making sure their teeth. Sometimes people say, that's a good question. I don't know the last time I've had them floated. And it's like, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard to find people sometimes to do it. And saddle fit, and just the saddle fitting that you guys have had, I've already could tell a change in the horses, in some of the horses, to their benefit. It's like, man, who needs me anymore? And I don't really have any nutritional things. That's a whole, banana, monkey cage thing. It's a lot, other than I just know sugar is typically the enemy, And at the end of the day, because I know some folks that they give them treats all the time, and I'm just like, and like I said, the bits, also bitting and stuff like that, how the bit fits, all that stuff, which is a whole nother, all these things are just really, really good for making sure that things are in the proper places to keep that body from becoming twisted. All right, we'll go next. So I break the horse down into into for me, 3 basic zones: the head and neck, the shoulders, and the back and the hips. I always look at it as like a suspension bridge. So the horse is, like San Francisco Bridge, but at the end of it, it's got a moving roadway that can cantilever, because 65% of the horse's weight is carrying on that forehand. In the fulcrum, the balance, their balance point is through the center of through the shoulders. So all that leverage has to come through the horse like a seesaw. And when there's problems in the structure, some areas are taking more tension than the other things, and over time that builds up tension. And you see like the big white fascial sheaths here. This isn't exactly anatomical, but pretty close. You see these big white fascial sheaths, and the fascia is completely different than the musculature, but it also acts as a containment vessel. It wraps around every muscle cell. It's like this fibrous net that goes around everything. And anytime, like if you cut a piece of steak, it's got gristle in it, that's usually a fascia that's had an injury, or there's a repair there, or that solidifies the body, makes these tight fascial pockets. And that fascia is incredibly strong. And just getting those. The work that we're going to do today is basically focused on superficial topical tension to reduce that, to help calm things down. And there are certain areas that we'll focus on, especially after riding, to help keep those fascial adhesions from building up, because they just get stuck, and things are supposed to slide over each other smoothly, and sometimes they get dehydrated or they get sore, and then inflammation brings in those areas that stagnate and create tension. So next slide, please. You have to give me some grace here, Doc. So I start with the head and neck and looking for imbalances. So I'll typically, because we've got the TMJ is up here in the blue circle, and that hyoid structure, you guys probably all heard about the hyoid, all that area, and how that interacts. There's certain muscles that come associated with the tongue that come down to the sternum and actually work in through how the horse moves forward. But you've got all this brachial plexus nerve branches that come out, I think, right at the atlas, and come down right in that whole zone right in there. So there's like all this major, you've got vessels, you've got nerves, you've got TMJ, so that's why the teeth to me is so, having that is like having, a runner having a good pair of shoes. You got to have the teeth right, and then making sure your shoeing is not a problem as well. We all deal, they deal a lot with problems in the feet. So when I come up to the head, I generally start at the front, and I'm just kind of assessing the back of the mandible, the jaw, and around the ears, the back in the poll, just kind of getting a reaction, and I'll show you down there. And sometimes you'll get where they're like, one side is just, oh gosh, don't, go there. And that's generally, there's some kind of entrapment or muscle tension or something going on up there. And that, to me, that just throws the whole thing right off. TMJ and, shoulder blade is suspended. Because at the end of the day, the thing that I go after is the fulcrum here, because that shoulder blade, like we do, we don't have any collarbone. And of course, that shoulder has just soft tissue that I look at it like a train wheel, it has to rotate. And if there's one of those muscle groups that's overdoing it for something else that's causing it, it's got a flat spot. It might be very small, but over time it builds. And then, so that's when I'm going in and opening up this area. It's often, people, they call it thoracic outlet syndrome in the massage world, where the brachial plexus nerve branch comes down underneath the clavicle and gets entrapped because it gets tight and gets positioned. It causes numbness, nerve pain, neuritis, right? Someone know?
Vascular.
Yeah. Vascular, yeah. But so And I've had people when I was doing more people, when they left the session, they'd come back in and say, I never realized I couldn't turn my head behind me to look behind me, because it's very subtle. These things creep up slowly and they accumulate. And then at one time you get up one morning, you go, oh gosh, I can't even move my neck to the side, what happened? And it's that gradual, insidious tension that builds and builds, and finally the tissue goes, sorry, boop, we're gonna contract, we're gonna protect ourselves. All right, next please. So thoracic sling, I'm sure you've heard a lot about thoracic sling in horses, all dressage horses. It's always it's one of the main components, making sure that stays healthy and is working properly. It's like a giant basket that's in between the shoulders. It maneuvers, it swings, it's suspended. So this is the part where I'll go in and I'll see, first if I'm looking at a horse, the first thing I'm looking at his neck on the top line up in here, if it's dipped or not. And if it's the first time I've worked on him, I'll go in and as soon as I can, this is the first place that I'll go after. And that's generally, it's entrapped, it's stuck. And I've seen horses that we've put on lunge and go around, and we went up to New Jersey to do some stuff, and there was like 4 of us evaluating this horse, and it was the thoroughbreds really are prone to this. As soon as I went in, they had me work on the horse first and then re-lunged him, and then it was like 40% difference in how he appeared on the lunge line, and there was a couple of vets, so it does really help as soon as you can free, and it usually, from what I do, and what I'm gonna hopefully show you guys, is that within 1 or 2 treatments, if it hasn't changed for a specific problem, then it's something else that you need to pursue. Instead of just dragging on. And sometimes they do because there's other postural problems, or, well, he's got a club foot, or, just conformational issues, types of horse it is. So the other one where the shoulder and the thoracic sling, if it's not doing really well, this guy here, this big orange guy, the brachiocephalicus muscle, ties into the shoulder, to the arm, and also to the lower cervical aspects, and then up at the back of the pole. And what happens is this guy, if this thing is struggling, this muscle starts to overdevelop, and it creates like that U-neck. That's what I've heard it called, where he's too thick up here and too thin over here, because this thing is basically compensating, because it interacts in the same area. It kind of works in conjunction with the sling, but it also will overdo it if this guy is having problems. Is hollowing his back or whatever, and this is bringing the shoulder out rather than the forward motion coming through. And I'll show you out there too how you can recognize that, and it's how you can actually work on this yourself to keep this from, and there's always going to be times when he's had a hot nail, or he had an abscess, or something intermediate that causes him to rely more on that and lifting his leg that way rather than coming through when he walks. But then recognizing that and how to treat that and keep it at bay is something that is another component, especially with dressage.
What is the difference between, so there's the traps, and then over in the other picture here is the rhomboideus?
Rhomboids, yeah, okay. We call them rhomboids. Yeah.
I don't understand what the difference there.
Well, the rhomboids are basically a little deeper. The rhomboids are like on us, or like we're between the shoulder blades. So what you're seeing here, just this blue area has got several different layers of muscle. The rhomboids are also part of that suspension train that's up there. There's a couple of different things that aren't really called out. These two are the ones I like this picture because of the brachiocephalicus, and then you've got the back extensors that come through here. There's a couple of different lines of those as well. The abdominals, is that really what's your question other than?
Well, yeah, like this one on top of each other. Yeah, so the traps.
Yeah, the trap's on top of the rhomboid. The trap is over top of the rhomboids, and the rhomboids just basically they bring the shoulders back together up, to work they're a component, but not a major component.
And the reason I was asking is because in trying to figure out how to build top line, that's one, seems to be one of the areas, the tracks that we work on. Would that be correct? Ms. Trainer, where is our trainer?
Well, it's the whole thing. It's not isolating. You do the trash with the brown buoys, you probably don't know all of it.
It's part of that, but part of that also on the shoulder blade has the cartilage that's at the top of the shoulder blade where this serratus muscle comes in and ties underneath, and the thoracic part of that comes up underneath that shoulder blade, and that soft tissue part of the cartilage area of the shoulder blade. That's why the saddle fit's so important, because if that thing starts to get irritated, that rhomboid's going to start firing, and it's going to be compensating. And when these muscles get compensated, they start shortening up, tightening up, and not moving right. So,
Can't I work on one muscle
pardon me?
while you're riding? You can't just work on one muscle. Everything's connected as you're showing. There are many layers of it. So.
I think on people, it can be a little bit easier maybe to do some isolation.
It is, because you can ask them to engage.
Right.
Horses maybe.
Horses not, and there's an isometric stretching that I'm going to show you that actually will help with that wither area. It's going to what I think, I've kind of incorporated it, I'll talk about it a little later, but it basically will help to treat that whole top line area there.
Is that brachio, I don't know what the end of it is. Is that kind of like when they get that thick underneck?
That's it.
Like when I bought my horse?
Yeah, and it's overdeveloped down here, and it's that big, it's that, right where they would take blood or whatever, that big guy underneath, and it can be really tight. Some people call it Celeste Lazarius, you ever heard of her? Celeste Lazarius? She's done a lot of research on the thoracic sling and stuff like that, but she calls it the predator.
Oh yeah,
because they get that thing big and thick, and the predator always comes out the neck, and that muscle helps them to have to get through all that muscle to get to the delicate stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it can become overdeveloped in certain, especially if the horse is not doing well as far as stride goes. And a lot of the tension that builds up usually happens over the junctions and interfaces of these muscles, like with that shoulder blade sliding back and forth on the rib cage. The pivot point is like right up in here, and it's doing this. And if all these guys have to stretch, contract, and down here with the pectorals and the bicep, and then the way the thoracic part of that. The sling muscle, these two guys work synergistically and brings the neck up rather than, and this thing would bring the neck down, bring it out. So
When you're working on like different breeds of horses, are there different like end results? Like for the warm blood, the track should be kind of more relaxed or lifted, but you work on the standard breds, maybe their like baseline is normally a little tight.
yeah, they're like the standard breds, they're because they have this high head carriage like this, and a lot of times you'll see they'll hollow the back and then they get the head up the way it is, and the tissue's going to feel a little different. What's my mean, what I call normal, and it's kind of varies. So, but I'm looking for that, the same type of no reaction. It might be a little different orientation. The wither may be a little higher or maybe a little lower, but I'm looking for suppleness and not a reaction. And generally, that's where I'm going to find it if there's something going on where something's not moving right. Next, please. So back and hips, typically, and the back, this guy, he's pretty superficial to the top of the horse, the superficial layer, this longissimus, and like on people, it's the outside kind of guy here. So a lot of times you'll see what I call like the accordion effect on the right side. You'll see it tight here, you'll see tight up in the like C2, C3 in the cervical, and you'll see this thing tight, and it kind of draws them in like that. And this being closer to the top, sometimes the saddle may be a little goofy, or if there's something going on in the pole or whatever, can set that pattern up. Because we have a chiropractor that I've used, we've known for over 20 years, and he's very scientific and really, really one of the better guys. Because Laura would go in and I would go in with her, and it was funny because she'd be laying on the table and he's hitting these spots, and he goes, you know, she has the same patterns these horses do on this right side problem. And then we start trading notes about things. And so when you shut this thing down, you shut this thing down, shut that thing down, things start to open up. But the key is like, okay, why is that turning on? You know, what is facilitating that? We keep turning it off, turning it off, turning it off. And then we start asking questions. You know, I start asking questions about different things. And that's generally, this center guy here, this multifidus, and you can see he's right next to the spine. And he ties into all those little spinous, those processes along here. And that guy, if the back is typically sore, not moving properly, it's like this cable that gets tight. And that's hard to work to turn that off. It takes a little bit but we're all going to be addressing some of this stuff in a broad manner. And then the intercostals that work out here a little further out, because you'll see, depending on the saddle fit too, you'll see problems that arise back over in here or up in here. But that's just typically how I look. And for me, visually, you don't have to remember the names of all this stuff. This is just more of just kind of seeing a visual. That's how I am. I'm visual, got to touch things, and probably most of you are like that too. To kind of, because I can see how things are put together. You go, oh, I can see how that would affect that, you know. So that's the biggest thing. And then like with the hips or the hamstrings, the gluteals, all this musculature, where I find like at the point of hip over here, I'm not blocking you too bad, am I, Bonnie?
No, you're fine.
Where it's around these bony prominences and around the sacrals up top. It's like the top of a mast on a sailboat where all the sails come up to the top. That's where all this tension here is at the attachment. And you can feel if there's something not moving well, it stores energy up in there because it's not releasing the energy as you're moving through. So that's one of my key spots that I'll go in and look for. And then the hamstrings coming off here, and if the horse is really working underneath, sometimes you'll feel what I call good tension, and there's not so good tension. There's like it's hard to put on the sheet, good and bad, other than green and red and a pen or whatever. But so in turning these things down to where those hamstrings can relax, it just helps the whole leg, all your the leg tendons and muscles and all through there, up around the back of the hamstrings, how they run back around. We all have the same ones. This bicep femoris is this big guy right in here that will he usually shows up first, and that's where and around the bony part, the greater trochanter, the hip bone that sticks out, the knob, and all this stuff is connected to, runs around this channel in here, and opening that area up is really great for just the whole hip itself. Let me see. And sometimes you'll see, like you look behind the horse and the sacral bumps are off. I see that a lot at eventing horses or jumping horses. And typically that's from an injury. That's typically a ligament that's torn, or, you know, they're still working and doing pretty well, but that's generally something's off back in there, or a roach back where they're kind of trying to keep themselves from moving. That lumbrosacral junction is really supposed to work and move and flex. And the hunter's bump, the other one too, is like that. It's just to me, it's too much and not enough of other stuff to creates this bump, you know, in the hip where it comes up. It hyperflexes the hips. We'll go next. And you guys probably know this already, but a lot better than I just saw this and I thought it was pretty cool. The postural ring for you guys. The energy moving around in this direction, and then as it comes through and comes back and wraps around, it's like this, comes in, spins around, and comes out. It comes in, spins around, this both ways. And that's why these other muscles that take up or compensate for this other stuff that's not working well, it starts to really change the dynamic. And this thing when I saw this particular picture, I liked it because the hip socket's about in there, and then the iliopsoas complex. Everybody ever heard of the iliopsoas? And to me, it's one of the forgotten ones, because a lot of back pain in people, let's say 80%, there's a little muscle between our last rib and the top of the ilium here is called the QL, we call it the QL, quadratus, but it's a little bitty guy that gets really tight, and they have one too, I believe, but it's really tough to get to. But the psoas is our big hip flexor. So it's the largest hip flexor, I know in people, I'm pretty sure it is on the horses too. And I think there's 3 branches in that, and we have 2, but that thing can become short and overdeveloped and not be stretched, and that's another way I'll show you some things that we can do to open these up. And it's kind of like a forgotten guy, because in some of these stretching things that we do, it's really important. And I think I've seen horses that, when I open that up, their legs go from this stance like this to almost their relaxed stance is wider. And it happens because the way it positions, it pulls out, it gives their ability to stand wider, more relaxed. So, and that's going to help the back at the same time. Okay. Huh? Questions? Everybody thoroughly confused? That's good. Okay.
Do you feel like you've seen like some trends, like you've been around for a long time and training has sort of changed and morphed with dressage and with jumpers? Do you think that you've seen different trends among the horses and what you're finding when you're massage?
That's good. Okay.
Do you feel like you've seen like some trends, like you've been around for a long time and training has sort of changed and morphed with dressage and with jumpers? Do you think that you've seen different trends among the horses and what you're finding when you're massage?
Questions? Everybody thoroughly confused? That's good. Okay.
Do you feel like you've seen like some trends, like you've been around for a long time and training has sort of changed and morphed with dressage and with jumpers? Do you think that you've seen different trends among the horses and what you're finding when you're massage?
Dressage in general, I think the horses have gotten improved. So whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it.
Well, they seem to be having a lot more neck problems than they used to go. They're identifying more neck problems. I don't know if it's we're better at identifying or whether there's just more neck problems.
And that's what Dr. DeClue really helps to define, because I think the problems have kind of been there, but we've kind of, oh, that's just normal for him, or that's just normal the way he shakes his head, or, you know, he does it a little bit sometimes, but sometimes, and all those little things we start targeting. There's been a lot more research and stuff done with these horses that are things that people say, oh, he's just, you know, he always walks like that when he walks out of the stall. You know, it's a red flag, you know, and he warms up, that's why we warm up, you know, and so I think there's, in the neck definitely is the pathway to the horse as well. And then I've seen more, I have seen more like arthritis in the lower cervical areas and stuff, and I think that's because the compression, you know, like that overdeveloped brachial muscle, it's not coming through, so that cervical's being jammed and inflamed and jammed and inflamed, that kind of a thing. But I think that overall, I think the dressage world, there's a couple other barns I work with here, horses, but as far as I can tell, the hunter world's about what it was, and I do some Western horses, and the quarter horses are a little different. They're little blocks of leather, trying to work on them, little stiff guys. But yeah, I think that from my perspective, the horses I work on, especially dressage, are improving. They're not having as many, I don't see as many tendon problems, and that's kind of where you see a lot of stuff ending up with the bow tendons and this, that, and the other. But I've been at certain barns for years and years and years, so I'm kind of isolated. You know, I'm not going to this new barn over here and seeing what they're doing or what they're doing. And my barns are pretty stable. They're, you know, where the places that I'm at, they're doing a regular routine of good stuff. So.
Do you think that when you're working on these like big muscles, you know, like the longissimus and all these fascial planes, does it help to be like you, like a 6-foot man, or do you think that you just have, you know, because sometimes I watch the chiropractors and they're like 5 foot nothing, women trying to realign my horse's spine. I just don't know that I can be standing that's happening.
Well, when I went through my massage training, I went to Equisage in Round Hill, Virginia. This was 29 years ago, and they were probably one of the only schools in the country, and it was a week-long course. And I just finished my human licensure. Didn't I? No, I did that first. Okay. So I did that first and went through that program, and the program that they based it off was Jack Maar, and he was a legend he's a physical therapist, and he worked a lot with the teams, the Olympics back in the 70s and the 80s. What was the question? Give me again.
Do you think you need to be bigger?
Okay, so going back to Equisage, Marie Schreiber, she was probably, I don't know, 5'6" or something like that. She's not that big. But she's the one that showed me the basics. And in Jack Maher's book, there's 25 muscle groups that they target. And she kind of built her program off that book, and it's my little Bible to this day. It's out of print now. And she was a little nothing. So basically, what I took what she did and then learned that, and then I had to go, when I went into the field, of course I'm a lot bigger, I developed my own, and then going through all massage school stuff and learning all those things, the CE classes and different modalities of things, I just developed my own style of doing what she did, but I do it a lot differently. I don't do the same thing they did, but it's just more modified. And when we go out into the barn, and I'll show you how to do things, but you kind of, if you try to do what I do, it's probably not going to work out great for you. It's going to feel clunky, and it's going to feel clunky anyway, because when I started like this, it's like, am I doing this right? You know, it's really, for a couple of years, you're just like winging it, you feel like. But you got to find your own, trust in your gut. I don't want to hold it like that. I want to do it this way, and he likes it this way. I want to put more pressure here. You just have to trust yourself, and you're not going to do it wrong. He'll let you know, or she will let you know if you're doing it wrong. But I do find it a big advantage to do what I do, because I do more deep tissue neuromuscular work, where she was doing some of that, but it was more of just like, I would call like spa massage, you know, compression, effleurage, depotement, and which is a valid thing. I mean, there's a lot of people teaching, but my thing is like, when I got into massage, I had back problems and back pain, and I wanted to be alleviated from it. So what I do is I go in and I'm looking for the patterns. I'm looking for the dysfunctional patterns in the horses or in people when I'd work on them. Like a lot of the guys, the Mexican guys at the barn, so I'll work on some of them sometimes. Their shoulders, because they're swinging hay or mucking stalls, and I'll work on those guys a little bit. But I do use my body to my advantage, and the things I'm going to show you today hopefully will something that you all can do without too much. But as far as the like these like little ladies or whatever, they stand up on blocks, because chiropractic is all about the thrust. It's not necessarily pushing that bone back into place. It's the frequency of the adjustment that creates that neurological pause that resets the neurological, because that's what's pulling the bones and the muscles out of condition or out of spec. And it's all about getting the thrust properly and very specifically. So I don't think you have to be a giant, but you do, like a lot of them I'll see on those foam blocks. They got to get up on the blocks and do all that stuff. And even for me, I mean, if I wanted to do that, some horses, you know, I can't come at it this way. You really have to, it all has to come, like doing CPR on a person. It has to be specific, and it has to be, it doesn't have to be really hard, but it's all in the technique. Yeah, but.
Do you think are places like New Bolton and places in Lexington, are there any like formal studies or people looking at massage in any formal way?
Massage?
Yeah.
There's a lot of research
with the horses,
with massage and with stretching, and I've been more involved with. And if we have time at the end, I'll show you the device that we've been working on for the last almost 4.5 years. It's a stretching tool that hopefully we're going to bring to the public to help facilitate leg stretching in a safer, easier way. But there's tons of human research on massage and benefits and stuff, and then on stretching the horses, there's not as much, but there's a couple of good studies out there, you know, how they've done test things and stuff like that. But it's kind of like, it's kind of like, it's just, hopefully there's going to be more, and it's like we've been trying to I know Vanessa's been trying to get a study with our stretching tool, but we've been talking to a lot of the top trainers, top vets with this device to making sure we're staying in our lane, because there's no, it's kind of an orthopedic device, and we would just want to make sure that when we go out with this, or people, oh my gosh, they're going to destroy, So far it's been very receptive. We've been talking to a lot of top competitors and vets and stuff, so we've had actually a couple of them on our team just to make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing. But does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where I was talking about fascia versus muscle. The connective fascial tissue is, like I said, it's this web network that wraps every muscle fiber. It reaches from our top of our heads to our toes, and it's also it's elastic. It's got these little net areas are actually hollow and have fluid in them, and they reach through tissue layers connecting the muscle vessels to the derma, the skin layers. It also runs through the skin. It's a very complex and system that can hold tension in itself. So and what happens, like anytime you have an injury, like you get kicked or the horse gets kicked in the field, you can tell, oh, it's a little swollen and sore. There's adhesions forming in that repair. And depending on how old the horse is, there might be, younger horses will always come out of it better, because horses don't want to show they're lame anyway. The lame horse gets eaten, right? So they're very good at masking pain until it's like, okay, I'm at the end of the line here. And so the myofascial release is a technique that I incorporate a little bit. It's kind of like I do this, I went to, like, the John Barnes is kind of the guru for myofascial for people and for horses, and did his courses, but myofascial takes a little bit longer and it's a little more subtle, but I'm just, I can't, I gotta do something.
No foam rollers for horses.
Pardon me?
No foam rollers for horses?
No, I mean, actually, they probably do. They kinesiology tape them and all that. I'm like, okay, whatever, But it's a stretch, but also like on this. So when the fascia gets damaged, are you going to show this? So here's an adhesion in here. So as I'm going through the tissue, basically, it's breaking those adhesion layers down and realigning the fabric of those tissues. So like a lot of times when like after surgery, you get a scar, and that scar is usually, there's 2 or 3 layers of scar tissue that can form underneath that. And once the scar is basically healed, you can go in and do some work around that to kind of loosen the fibers, even scar tissue that keloids or whatever. You can go in and work. Like you had that horse, your mare that had fallen and that you could feel this plate almost where that fascia had just contracted and built this layer of thickness as a repair. And the sooner you go in and you try to break that stuff down, the sooner you can restore, because all we're trying to do is get blood and oxygen in there for it to repair itself, and that's really the key. I'm creating space for blood and oxygen. We're creating blood and oxygen to go in these areas to rehab these spots. And like I said, the net, if you have a problem here, you can see that fascial net intertwines and pulls on things. Because when I'm doing fascial release, sometimes you'll be working on something on the hip, and all of a sudden they start twitching their head. They start moving. You can see the kind of waves coming through, and it's actually releasing and pulling through that tissue layer and trying to realign those fibers. So it's a very specific technique, and what we do will affect that fascia, but I wouldn't say it's 100% what I would call myofascial release, but that's also a great way. And the muscles are different, because the muscles they're actually controlled by what the fascia will let them move through, and chronic stress causes that fascial network to tighten, and when that tightens, like under the saddle or in the girth area around the pectorals, because that's just such a big transition zone, and over time, that if that girth is a little not exactly comfortable, or it's got some pressure points, it'll build those kind of adhesion spots, and they get pretty, and that's where I find that's where I usually go after too. I'm looking for trouble in the girth and trying to alleviate that, because that's over time, when that gets tight, you see him put the saddle on, the horse has already got his ears back. He's like, I don't want to do this there's something there we have to figure out. You know, that it isn't typically normal. In the new studies that's been coming out, like with Dr. DeClue and stuff, and there's Dr. Sue Dyson is another one that she's done some fantastic work on, Dr. Sue Dyson, on these, and I'm going to share this, it's called Ideogram, the 24 postural, when you're riding, what the horse looks like, if he's underpainted, and if he has 8 or more. And they've done like a study of like 600 horses like that, and what lame horses and versus normal horses. And it's very, very interesting. And I think moving forward in our industry, because I'm all about prevention, that's what I'm trying to do, and I think there's a lot more research that's going out there to fill in the gap between a great horse and then one that's crashed. And somewhere we're filling in that spot, and I think is important for them and for us.
When you're talking about girth area, how do you know if you're too tight? How do you know if you're causing a problem? You don't want your saddle sliding around,
Yes.
but you also don't want it too tight.
Right.
So,
Okay. Great question. I don't have a great answer for you since I don't really ride or cinch them up. But as far as because she did mention some of those girths that I've seen, they're like contoured, these things, and she's actually says they cause more issue because of the way that the girth comes down and connects and then it turns, so it's tighter on one side and looser on the other side, just because of the orientation of the twist of it. The biggest thing is if you can spread out more pressure over a bigger area, you have less pressure.
Makes sense.
You know,
The problem is that we're breeding horses, but we create these problems because we're breeding horses that these horses have big shoulders and the saddle sits further back, and so the girth truly sits like on their belly, not at the girth, like right behind the front leg.
Right.
So you have to have this contoured girth so that it can sit further back where your saddle is.
I get what you're...
Pull the saddle forward onto the shoulder.
Yeah, I get it. I guess the biggest thing is to use that and just make sure that feeling if it is tighter or lesser, and then trying to figure out maybe it's a different style of that type of a girth. But you're trying to create even pressure, that's what she was saying. And she's listed...
She won't move.
oh, really?
She will not move if the saddle is not exactly right.
That's good.
It is good.
Yeah, she's telling you. And some are better, some are like, no, this ain't gonna do it. And other ones are like, I'll go along to get along, and then all of a sudden, boom. But, she lists different companies on this podcast too, stuff that she likes. And I guess it's up to you to kind of research that stuff and see, but, yeah.
Quick question. Do you think, like we always say, oh, mares are just girthy, that's just them. Do you think that's true, or?
Especially red mares. And I hate to stereotype, but it's like, it seems that more times than not, the chestnuts are a little bit more finicky about things, but I've met some mares that are just phenomenal. And I don't know if it maybe has to do with more hormonal issues, or if...
Is it the redhead phenomenon?
Yeah.
And they're sensitive to their skin, they have allergies.
The gingers, You can take a break for a few minutes, and, you have any more questions about the fascial system, other than it's there? But it's very complex, and it has a lot to do with our horses' bodies and how they eventually that fascia gets tight in areas, and it actually will mold the horse to support that action. It's like a person sitting at a computer for 10 years, the shoulders start to round, the muscles shorten up, and only certain muscle fibers will fire. If that, say, a particular muscle group in the neck has got 1 million fibers, but all they're using is 500,000, those actual fibers will shut down. And then people say, gosh, my neck has been bothering me, and actually lack of use can be as just painful as too much use.
Yeah.
So, okay, we can go to the next one. Possible causes of lameness and dysfunction. And before I put the number one that Dr. DeClue would say, she would ask people, they were going through all these different things, and she goes, pain. Pain is causing the lameness. So at the end of the day, that's why we react is from pain. So it makes sense to try to figure out other subtle things that, not keeping your mind open to, well maybe this needs to be looked at, or maybe that needs to be looked at, and unfortunately the hard part is trying to find some competent people in those particular areas that are going to give you the information you need. So what she was funny, she termed it body lameness, and that really rang home with me, because that's exactly what I'm looking at. I'm looking at body lameness. I'll look at their legs, and see there's not, something sticking out or bleeding or, swelled up, but the body lameness is what I'm picturing. It's like a lot of times, well, do you want to see the horse go? I said, not necessarily, I just want to feel him. And that's my thing. But I've learned more to incorporate watching a horse go with different issues that they're having. But for me, it was always, if I can feel them, I can tell you, or I'll mention to say, this is he doing this, that, and the other. Go, well, yeah, he's really bad on that side, and yada, yada, yada. Or no, that's not it. And it may be something totally different going on. But generally, I can get a sense of, even working with people, and feel their body and go, well, you got this right shoulder gives you a problem. It's like, oh yeah, how do you know? So I can feel it. I can feel that pattern, that connective tissue that's tight. Same thing with the horses. So the body lameness thing was something I just really clicked with. Injury in competition, overtraining, repetitive motion without doing any extracurricular things, like changing it with poles or doing correct. She was very specific about lunging and how it's not done well most of the time. And her way of doing it made a lot of sense to me, because I go out there and see a lot of these horses just get run and run, especially the hunters, and not to pick on the hunters all the time. I'm not trying to, make bad about them guys, but, and I don't know, but I'm listening to how she's breaking it down, and it's an art to do it properly and the things that you're looking for. Injury during turnout, because a lot of times during the wintertime, I'll come in and, it's icy out there, and well, he ran like crazy and slipped and hit his back end, and you come out there and you feel his hips, and he's like that. He's like, and so it's those kind of things that happen, and just like your kick, you're having a problem, and
It's adjusted for a whole
you got to adjust it by, that's why I have a new chiropractic program. I'll bring a little pony in and hit him, It works sometimes. Lower limb problems, abscesses, ligaments, feet, tendon. The feet is another thing that's just such a complex thing, and making sure that we're on the right track on feet. And there's a couple of farriers that I know. I just pick their brains when they're in the barn. I just love it, because I can go in there and pick their brain and talk about things and get a little better understanding. And she puts a big emphasis on the last one here. I told Laura we probably should have put that first, but is equipment. She looks at equipment as the first thing that she's going after. And she talked about driving horses with the headset and all that, and how it hasn't been redesigned for the last 200 years, and it needs to be redesigned, because there's a lot of issues with that. She says somebody come up with a new headset. Okay, next. So we don't want to end up with this guy, right? Even though we do love him, but I always saw this years and years ago, and I just love that far side. And some truth in that, I guess. And the biggest thing is, because I told Laura, I said, I don't ride. So for me, having that connection, but I understand that connection as much time as I spend with them on the ground, and they have to let me in to do what I do, because it can be painful what I do. And they're not always licking and chewing, like, oh, look at he's yawning and all that. Sometimes they're like, oh God, please, but then they're letting me do it, because they have, and I'm doing it in the stall, and that's the best place to do it, in their safe place, on a loose rein. I got the lead rope over their thing, and it's just this communication, it's like, there was a guy shadowing me, and I was walking around the back end doing stuff. He goes, how long is it before you're not afraid to walk back there or do that? And he didn't have a lot of horse experience. I said, it's never a for sure thing. I said, but I feel like I have enough feedback from the horse that he's letting me know what's going on. You know, and it doesn't mean that I'm completely safe. It's like, does your dog bite? No, you know, because they got teeth, they bite, you know. But it's just, and I feel like that's one of the biggest rewarding parts of what I do, is that feedback I get from some of these horses. Some of them, I feel like, you know, you want to take them home with you, you know, drink beer with you out in the paddock or whatever. I got a couple that were like that, and but some of them that are just tolerate me, you feel like sometimes, but I'd say the majority, and it depends on where they came from, how they were treated, you know, with their relationships with people, but trying to win them over. So it's really neat, because it gives me like that connection. It's just a God thing, you know. It really is. I think with Brian.
Do they ever bite or kick?
Oh yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get.
They bite.
Oh, I have one of those too.
Yikes.
Something that wasn't here.
No,
Was it a bear?
it was a hunter. Yeah. And that was like 4 or 5 days ago. And this horse, I'd worked on him. It was a new horse. I'd worked on him several times, no problem. And then I was just going to go in and show somebody doing some stretching. And I went down to pick his leg up. Boom!
Oh, wow.
And they said, and she said, well, you know, he can get angry, or he just gets moody sometimes. Okay. And I wasn't really doing anything to him. You know, and it's like, good grief. But, you know, I wanted to put him against the wall, but I didn't. But we definitely had to come to Jesus meeting together. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm in their world. I'm trying to get them, I'm trying to buy into their world. And when I'm with them in a stall, I'm almost trying to be like a part of the herd. You know, like the cleaner fish that down in the ocean working on a fish. You know, here's this grouper. I'd eat you if you weren't cleaning my teeth, you know. But I know you're helping me, so I'm going to let you do all this stuff. And that's kind of my approach. You know, hopefully I can do what I do. And they let me do what I do. They have to let me do what I do, because if they're fighting me, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So when I first enter a stall, first thing I'll do is just take a breath. And if you're going to start doing this work, it's like my anxiety about anything that's going on in my life. You know, my wife has done something that she shouldn't have done, or, you know.
That rarely happens.
It does. That's usually what I've done that's caused the problem. So how many flowers do I have to bring home this time, sweetheart? But so, in just my mental state is, I'm definitely not an A personality, and I maybe I'm a little dyslexic, so I fit in, I think. You know, clear the brain is not too hard for me to do. Take a breath and just kind of let the outside be on the outside, and walking in and just kind of being with your horse. And I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. And I generally announce that I'm going to be here, and they're maybe eating some hay or doing something, and I'll walk in, and I don't directly approach them. I wait for them maybe to come to me with their ears up, or how they look, or they may come to me and smell me a little bit. They usually do. And then I'll slide the halter on, throw the lead rope over their left side. I usually start on the left side. And then I just do an assessment. I'm just looking at their feet, you know, anything new, things swollen, how they're standing. You know, are they standing, are they switching back and forth off a leg? Does anything look swollen or hard or empty or, you know, out of whack? And Dr. DeClue also she has this acronym TAB, T-A-A-B. It's tension, atrophy, asymmetry, and bulging. And I thought that was really good, because a lot of times the people come to me, well, it's back of his head here, you know, this area, it's a lot bigger on this left side, you know, up at the back of the occiput area, the back of his neck. And I don't, you know, but it's even seeing those clues, those are clues that something isn't exactly right. And, or atrophy, you know, he's hollow in the wither, and he's not building the top line like he should, or he's, you know, one of the hamstrings he looks a little weaker on the one side, you know, all those, and trying to figure out, you know, you treat it, yeah, but then it's like, well, you know, how long, and then to try to get the history and try to see what's going on and try to come out from there. obvious signs of problems, and the horse's emotional state at the time. Usually, because when I show up sometimes, the weed eaters are going, or there's a mower going, or there's construction, or it's close to feed time, or they just got worked and I really want to eat my hay. So I kind of have to work around their schedule, but ideally to go in when they're basically not worried about their buddy that they took out and put in the field, or if they're in a calm state and they're starting to relate with you, it's the best time to do it. Yeah, take a few moments. So the next one, I think it's so this is just a couple of videos. This particular horse is a trigger point in that like C2, C3 junction. Can you play that? There's not a lot of movement there. But it went on for like 3 or 4 minutes. And just once I hit it, he dropped his head immediately, because there's a lot of neat things that happen, but I never get to video it because I don't have my, camera with me. But just some instances where they just really say thank you.
His ears are forward.
Yeah, it really was, and then this one, it's in his shoulder blade.
You hit the spot.
So if you can see my hands, basically I've got a big palm and I'm on that shoulder blade, there's 2 muscles, infraspinatus and the supraspinatus and the infraspinatus underneath. The infraspinatus is a little larger, has a lot to do with lateral movement in the arms. And all I'm doing is basically starting at the top of the belly and just squeezing it like a toothpaste, pulling it down. And that's what I call, he's overused it, but it's not in crisis, but it's just overused. And he'll start to lick, but you can see it hurts, but it's like hurts so good type of thing. And he'll even, as he stretches through that, he's actually able to pull that connective tissue, stretching it out. And some of them done such amazing things, like I wish I could have put that on camera. You see, he's not moving at all. I mean, as far as feet-wise, he's like right in there in the midst of it.
He would move away if it was
something that it was, yeah. And if it was too painful, I might back down and just treat it a little, I use a different movement to get it to soften. A lot of times, initially, when you touch something, they may react, because it's like pushing it right over that pain marker. And then sometimes, what I'll do is I'll go in and do a lighter technique of something and then break that surface tension. And then once you break that off, then you can start putting heavier tension in. And that's why the tool I gave you, the one that's in your bags is a stiffer one, and then there's a softer one that we'll use, that I didn't give you, but you have to get your own, sorry. That we'll use like in the girth area to help clear those adhesions, or trying to pull, especially after they've worked, you cool them down. I think it will be very beneficial. And to be able to do it, if I could, instead of being, with them once a month, but you doing it 2 or 3 times after you hose them down, and to do some of this stuff, I think it'll be like a real good test to see, because I know it'll help. I do. So the next picture is, what do you see here? I want some feedback from you.
I see somebody icing the front, but the hind looks questionable.
And it's even all still grown.
Yeah, Jesus.
It seems like it's loading its front a lot.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
How can you even tell where this one is sore? He looks like he's sore.
Where was he sore, do you think?
Everywhere.
Yeah, body language.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his front legs behind his shoulders, he's cantilevering that weight over, and he's unloading his feet in the back. And this was after he was ridden, and he's a client of mine, but he was just, you could just tell that he's definitely uncomfortable. But
He should be icing the back, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That horse looks laminitic.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it real wide.
Yeah. But he's kind of unloading, he was pushing back, he's trying to lift off I thought he was jumping actually, but it's got 1 foot planted.
Look at his neck, like all the way to the back.
Yeah.
Tight.
Yeah.
That's how I get up in the morning.
where's the coffee?
Yeah, all through his, I mean, they're always so stiff. Conscience, you can see all the.
Yeah, yeah, and he's just been compensating, and you can kind of see it in his body posture.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, next one. This other one.
Looks like it might be having some laminitis.
Yeah, or navicular or something.
Yeah, he's back on his back end trying to unload his front end. And I'll see this, like I'll see these horses a lot of times, they're doing this when they're eating in the stall. You know, and there's a, you know, instead of like they normally do, and that, for me, I see something in the thoracic area, the upper thoracic, that's uncomfortable, because if they bring that shoulder forward, it's putting something into you know, painful, so I'm gonna scissor open. And sometimes I'll get them to try to change their diagonal, and then they might change for a little bit, and then they go back out to it. But
Looks like he's almost pointing that right.
yeah, I mean, and like, this was, I couldn't find one that I wanted, a picture like the scissor, but you know what I'm talking about. You'll see them doing that, and that, to me, that's dysfunctional.
My old horse does that because she has a damaged medial collateral ligament in her front foot. And it's
Which one does she point? The front?
her left.
The left, the one that was damaged? Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah, and you knew that, and that's a great example of, you know, so those are just little clues, but it's hard for me to go, hey, your horse is lame, you know? I mean, I'll mention it to them, and I said, has your vet looked at that, or has an evaluation or something like that, but because I'm not of that, I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express Inn last night, though, but it just, and that's trying what I'm just to try out to call these subtleties and paying more attention to those little things that we just take for granted a lot of times, but they could be clues to some other things that are going on.
I'm just hoping that this also helps her feel better, you know, if you can do stuff like this, because she's always going to be a little, she's permanently off.
Sure.
And so there's ways to just try to make her more comfortable.
Right. Yep.
He has clients that over the years, that the same thing, horses are retired and
Yeah.
they're like, they've worked all their lives and they just want them to feel good in their
She's
days.
retired.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yep, Robinson.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Rob.
Yeah. And Rob's done, you know, since you can tell he's not at work anlianymore.
Is he a lot looser, like
Yeah.
his muscles are
Yeah,
stiff?
you can feel a little bit ache, but he's like, no, I'm good. I'm doing pretty good. Thanks. Life's good. It's like when I went to get in the paddock the other day, because you were shorthanded or whatever, and I get all the way over there to the run-in shed, and he smells me, and he goes, oh, okay, I'm gonna walk over here with my buddy. And then Ozzy, I think, was with him out. Doesn't Ozzy turn out with him? And Ozzy's all over me. He's like, hey, dude, come on. I said, dude, just back off. And so I started walking towards, you know, Rob, and he's just, no, just, you stay back there. So I said, screw it. I'm going back to the fence, and I'm not gonna chase you around. So I get over there, and I sit there looking, he's looking at me. And I'm, you know, I don't know, 75 yards away. I said, what are you gonna do? Then he comes over, and he puts his halter on, and we go in. And then Ozzy's like, oh, come on, man, that's great, you know, I'll help you.
He has some horses that we've gone to the barns when I've gone with him and they recognize him. They're like, you know, they start hearing him, they start vocalizing, and it's so funny.
And you have some to bite you, so. But hopefully not as kicked as much. I've taken some swings, but he gets stepped on, but I'm dancing a lot better now. After my feet, I can't feel them anymore, but that's okay. And then when not to massage. Heat, swelling, fever. Fever, never. We don't want to impede the, you know, the endocrine, you know, his system as it's going through something, because it definitely can overload some of the organs and stuff.
Would that be through a chiropractic as well? Not to do chiropractic when they're doing.
I probably wouldn't do anything like that, because definitely a chiropractic, I think, can stimulate things as well. But I think it's just a good rule of thumb. If we've got a fever, we're just treating the fever and getting through that.
I would add, like, if they have hives and stuff like that,
Allergies, yeah.
a middle of an allergic reaction.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't want to do that.
And like a lot of, and of course, there's seasons, you know, that he's got hives, where you have hives, and you come in and he's got hives all over him, and he's got itchy, you know, he's really reactive, and it's not worth it.
Right.
You know, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be so hypersensitive, he's going to jerk himself out anyway.
And sometimes, I would just.
Yeah.
You get like post-vaccine the next day? I don't know. After they've had vaccine.
Yeah, well, I was going to say vaccines. and if they've had a reaction, especially if it's hot, you know, it's reactive, I'm not going to mess with it, or probably do the treatment. But after even if after it's done its thing and it's cold, it's not hot anymore, but there's still fluid there, and you can go in and do some deswelling techniques to help get that interstitial fluid into the lymphatics to move it along. And I put an asterisk with the swelling, and swelling's the same way. If there's swelling but there's no heat, or you can go in and do these techniques that are basically stripping around it to create blood flow to get rid of that swelling or the interstitial fluid in there, to do that. But yeah, so yeah, and when in doubt, call your vet. I am not a veterinarian. And some of the problems that I've seen run into, people in my profession think they're a little bit more than what they are. You know, I've got a certificate, you know, so, but not trying to be, you know, knock people down, but I've seen some problems where there's a horse that's been colicking and somebody, a therapist says, oh, I have these trigger points that I can help your horse with, and they delay of care a day or so, and then the vet comes in and goes, you know, you shouldn't have delayed care. And that's the first thing I'm going to refer. If I see something that's I know that's out of my field of you know, the horse is, oh, he's you know, he's weaving, having some problems. I go in there and he's like, he can't even stand up. You know, you need to call the vet. Let's there's a problem here. And especially with those types of things, I don't play in that at all. I definitely refer if something that I think needs to be called out. So
You have obvious lameness on there, but I guess I would say like obvious undiagnosed lameness, because I would think some of your work would help the other part of the body kind of deal with the the tension that they're getting from dealing with the lameness.
correct, yes.
So,
Yeah, obvious, you know, it depends, I guess, the severity of the lameness, because if it is that much, then you're probably interfacing with veterinary care, or,
but like if they're on stall rest for a lameness for like a suspensory, I would think you'd be pretty beneficial for that.
yes, especially helping them move the lymphatics, pumping their muscles in the back end, and we can do some of that as well. It's very beneficial for post-injury. Didn't I have injury in there somewhere? I thought I did. Maybe I skipped it.
Processes you can pick up on what you do?
I think the disease processes, it's like anything neurologic sometimes I've seen where I'm working and they don't feel balanced. You know, they're weaving, or something else is strange going on. Probably something like that. Disease process like, sometimes the body just has a different feel to it. And, you know, it's like they're hypertensive, or it's like the way they're moving, there's something else, and I'll tell them I think there's something else deeper going on here in this situation, because I'll do some things but that doesn't improve, or it improves shortly then it comes right back. Then I might say you need to really maybe call your vet and see if he needs to do some blood work, or because something just to me doesn't feel right. So, but not really being able to nail anything.
It's good because you have like enough continuity to be able to see the things, but you're not seeing them on the daily. You know, you miss some things if you see them every day. You're going to get so used to it.
Right.
You see them once a month, which is enough continuity, but to see the difference.
Right, and it's nice because I keep that little picture I send you in my thing. So if I feel something that's not off, I can refer to that the last couple times, and I can see there's been some changes. So you say, well, yeah, we upped his work. You know, he's up the level, and he's more on his back end. So I say, well, okay, that makes sense. You know.
Usually touch.
Huh?
If I'm here and you're here, we usually talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all it's fun.
And that's great to be able to interface with a trainer or something, or, you know, and everybody writes, and I can't evaluate anybody's writing as far as, well, is this from writing, or is this from saddle fit, or, you know, a combination, you know. Because you all write better than I do, I can tell you right now. So some of them, really? Is that where that one is?
What is that a picture of, by the way?
It's a hand.
It's a hand. It looked like a dog or something at one time. What about that one?
Like a smiley face and eyes on it.
There it is. Okay, so we changed that. I must have changed the orientation. I must have changed the orientation.
Correct, I was gonna say, you were messing on my computer.
Okay. Well, go back to the other one.
Okay.
Once again,
That's too bad.
Okay. So there's a couple of things I'm going to try to show to you today. Compression, cross-fiber friction, direct pressure, and then some of the stretching routines I've kind of go over with some of you before. The compression is done generally, I use like a palm pressure, just my hand pushing into the tissue and even twisting or kneading into the tissue.
Need somebody to show that on?
I don't know if you were going to do that. We talked about it, but who's had a massage here? Has anybody not had a massage? Everybody's had a massage, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you all know what, when they hit certain areas, what that feels like, you know, if there's something trapped. And same thing with the horses, they respond the same way. So like the open hand compression, doing some kneading or basically a pumping action. And cross fiber is just like a cat paw, and I'm using my fingertips to kind of rake cross fiberly. If the muscles running this way, I'm coming across the fibers like a guitar, trying to do this type of stuff. And that's great for just initially helping them soften a little bit. If there's some extra tension there, I don't want to go into it, you know, start poking at them. Or some palm pressure can try to disarm some of those areas, because if they're a little bit reactive, we just need to get through that to disarm it to where it knocks it down a notch. And direct pressure is more of, if I've got an area I'm using a knuckle, or I'm using my thumb, and you know, I've used my thumbs over the years. It's usually what happens in massage therapists, they blow their saddle joints out in their thumbs over 10 years, and they're usually that they're done, or they got to do something different. Fortunately, my hands have been very good to me. And so I'm using direct pressure. I might use it with a forefinger and a thumb, or a thumb in a way, or twist with my knuckle into certain areas. And then the stretching. So, and we're going to be focused on some of the carriage stretching. There's that book, Dr.
Dyson.
No. Clayton. Hillary Clayton she's big in the orthopedic world and body mechanic world. She's got this little book with a video. There's a DVD that comes with it. It's excellent. It's excellent. Gives you a nice rundown of, and if you're interested to, you know, I'll show you, we'll do some stuff again in the barn, but that's definitely something to have. And it's not big, it's easy to read, it's quick, it's down and dirty. And basically you start learning to see with your hands. And typically, I know I've worked with horse people before, and it's like when I started working on horses, like you start touching them, like what am I feeling here? And so I want to try to hopefully get you used to, and it's just practice. It's like learning to paint, Bob Ross, you know. But it's just time. It just takes time. I think I've done maybe over like what, 12 to 15,000 horses in my career, and it's like, you just start getting a feel for it. It's a second nature to me. But just at first it's going to feel awkward. Am I doing it right? And you're just watching the horse respond and react, and you're really not doing it wrong. It's just, and you have to find your way to do kind of what I'm kind of showing you. You just have to make it your own. And that's the easiest way to do it. I'm just going to do it my way. When I decided to do that and just trust my gut, just like riding, you know, I think so. All right.
Kind of quick question.
Yep.
Under tools, is lids?
Yep.
Yeah. All right,
So,
Should just demonstrate your tool stuff here.
over here?
Yeah.
Well, he's got my camera. Oh, he's over here, okay.
Okay.
So, the first one is,
Stand up for you and help you out there.
the first one is this rubber curry comb that you all have. And there's some probably in the barn there, but I just like this one because it's easy to grab, and the nubs are stiff enough to where we can grab tissue and manipulate it. It's a great, you know, hair removal tool, or the dander and all that, but also it's a great fascial tool to use, massage tool.
and we were talking about that in the barn a couple of weeks ago, and I had one that was too soft.
Right, and the other one that's too soft is beneficial, but I ordered these off of Chewy, and I thought they would be stiffer, but they're actually like the too soft. And so these are the ones we're going to use in a similar to what you have in the girth. And we're just trying to get that tissue to spread and pull apart. And if we have some sore no more, I was doing a little research on that. I guess that's probably the biggest one they use, right? Is that sore no more liniment?
Liniment.
Yeah, I mean, and I really think after, you've washed them down and spray some of that on there, because the liniment gives a distraction to me, the nervous system. If there's a cooling effect, it's the brain's processing things a little differently. It's like the stuff you put on your Absorbing Junior, or it's more of a topical, to me, it more tricks the brain into changing gears, how it perceives pain. And it gives it a little bit different sensation. And using this tool, especially in the girth, on the pectorals, doing circles, and we're going to do some back and forth, and then stripping them out is, each time you ride. It takes you a few minutes to do it, but I think it's well worth the effort. No, I was cheaped out on that, sorry.
Can you get them at Chewy's?
You can get them at Chewy's, yeah.
There's
the neat
different sizes.
Yeah, there's two different, this is like for a dog, but it's also for the horse. But we'll be using these out there too. But on the other side, it's actually a scraper. That's what they said. So the back side you can use as
dead hair.
a scraper for a wet horse.
Oh, yeah. You get that, yeah. It's or something. Yeah.
I already know my horse will hate this.
Oh, it is.
Then we'll use a softer one.
Soften.
So if they come their ears and they don't like something like that, go easier?
You'll go easier, or you'll get a softer, and I've got a softer one. I didn't bring my bag in, did I? Okay, but they make ones like that, and I think there's one in the barn that has the softer bristles on it. Yeah, but that's the thing. You got to figure out what's going to work for your horse. Yeah, and if it's too aggressive, because it is kind of aggressive, but you can do it lighter. But because feel that one.
Nice, I like this. Okay, I have some that are better.
Or they have a lot of smaller little bristles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one in the bag like that.
That's great.
Depends on how much pressure you apply.
It is, but it's also, if it is sensitive in those areas, they're gonna respond.
I feel bad. I always think about his back, but I never think about the girth.
Yeah. And to me, the girth is premium.
Golly,
It's just, but so the lids is something I saw a guy, another vet using. These are very, high-tech, especially get the Jif ones, they're high-tech. Two different sizes, and these are great fascial tools. Like when we watched that animation with the fascial tool, they actually make scrapers in the fascial world for horses and for people, but they're like, $40 or whatever. These work really good. But you can overuse these a little bit. That's why I didn't really give it. And I'll use them, but you can put them in the palm of your hand, especially the small, and just kind of, when you're going over the horse, and the edge of this thing is doing exactly what.
Or my metal curry, I have a metal.
You have a metal curry? Yeah, this one I like though, if I've got my pond and I'm using slow pressure, I'm not just racing through it, but I'm pushing through like the low back muscles or down the thighs of the leg. You could also pocket it, and that's where you can get really direct this way. But that's where it can get, it just depends. But if you do it face down, and you get your own lid that fits your hand good at home or whatever, but you can put that on there, and I'll show you that too, the thicker muscle areas. The thing I like about the rubber tools is that you can go over the bones, and it isn't necessarily gonna hurt them. This thing, you wouldn't go over bony prominences or anything like that, but it's great. And we're doing like, to get those long muscles and back and forth, creating some of that separation in those tissues that get stuck together. That's the goal.
So I have a bunch of jars of them.
And so this one, excuse me, is just kind of the trigger points that I find, common trigger points. You've got a picture on that in your thing. Of course, the pole in this C2, C3 connection, you'll see a lot of times that gets tight. And this is the, with that thoracic sling, serratus muscle, not serratus, yes, serratus, yeah, comes in, it ties into the shoulder blade in here. It usually gets tight in here, but also can be very tight through here. And on either side of the shoulder blade, these two muscles on either side of this, oh, did we bring the chalk? We forgot the chalk.
Just take it out, too.
I know, on the table, forgot it. I was gonna bring a piece of my chalk to draw. So, but I'll show you how to find like the spine of the scapula, where it's that hard bony prominence, and on that side, the top side is that infraspinatus, supraspinatus, and on the bottom is this infraspinatus. And that's the one I was working on that one horse with that palm pressure, and really got a lot of relief out of that. And that's something you can use with the rubber tool, that you can work all that. Of course, the girth, and then this mid-girth or flank, what would you call that? Behind the shoulder, kind of midway up there. Especially where you're, is it a D-ring? Is that what they call it on the girth when it connects to the saddle?
Well, that's
For
usually
Western.
That's Western, right? Yeah, when they talked about the Western, but I know yours goes all the way up to the saddle.
No,
It's not much higher.
no, the dressage use, and there's some, I read the other day about something about the distance of the buckles up around, like relative to the elbow, being a problem. Like you want to have it actually a little higher, not super low.
Right. You want it higher vertically versus than this way.
Yeah.
And then making sure, and she talked a lot about supporting that if there's some kind of a cushion, that buckle's not just metal part up against the rib cage.
Right.
And then this is the lat muscle, what I call like the butterfly muscle. You know, you see the guy swimming, the big lats, because that one swings down under behind the shoulder and up into that mid back, and they kind of correspond right in this. You got muscles coming this way, and this guy's overlapping. So you see, and like where the back of the saddle hits, and over time that fascia gets tight and it starts sticking together, and things aren't moving the way they're supposed to move. There, and then right at the lumbar sacral area there, at the top of the hip, behind the point of hip here, there's a lot of attachments that fan out for the gluteals, and then up at the dock area, up around the tail set, and then through these hamstrings. But it's just to me, like they're just common big movement areas that I'm typically looking for. And that girth, is like I said, this one I really try to clear as best I can, because that's, to me, there's so much going on up in there, and then up around the pole can be a bit challenge to get that soft. I think so any questions that we haven't walked through yet or anything?
Molly doesn't stretch with Fritz where she pulls way back on his tail and then moves it around, and you can see him relax into it.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Okay.
In her book too, it shows some of that as well. And it's got a great overview of all those types of stretches, but I do that a lot too, where I'll hang off one side. And there's another thing I'm going to show you that I've kind of, in my own mind, there's a, they call it PNF. Here, I wrote it on here. No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Neuromuscular facilitation. Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. It's very scientific. So basically what it is isometric contractions. And because in massage and doing for people, it's where you're like, if I'm going to stretch this hamstring, I'm laying on my back, I've got my leg up, and trying to stretch the hamstring. And so it goes so far, stops, you're going to stretch, you stretch. So neuromuscular facilitation is basically, okay, the guy, I've got my leg up, or the person's got his leg up, and I'm holding it in the stretch thing, and I'm going to have him push against my hand for like 8 to 10 seconds. Then after you release, takes a breath. Then you get about 5, 10 more degrees out of it. Do the same thing, 5, 8, 10 seconds, push against it, release, come back, and you're actually gaining, because there's sensors in the muscles, just like the antagonist and agonist muscles, like your bicep and your tricep work for and against each other. So if I'm engaging the tricep or the bicep, the tricep is basically disengaged. But then you're actually, when you contract these muscles and act to stretch it, the neuromuscular side of this, what they found is that you actually can stretch more if you engage and release, engage and release. So how can I do that with a horse? Because I think the isometric contractions are really, really good. It's almost like yoga. You know, you're holding those stretches in an area. And so what I've done is some of the wither work and the hip work that I've been doing on the horses, and I feel like it's doing great, but is where I'm holding for 10 seconds in the withers, I'm letting them release, hold, release, go to the other side, because they're having you stand up basically. I'm not pushing them away, but they're taking all those core, hopefully through all those little facet, all those little inner, the muscles along the spinous processes are all engaged on one side, the other side's hanging. It's loose, engage again, loose, engage again. Then I go to the other side, engage again. And hopefully, even though I'm not stretching it back, but when I engage that way, it's disconnecting that one side and actually going to facilitate a stretch on that side. It's also warming up the core of your horse, being able to do this back and forth, creating that back and forth and then doing it in the hips. I feel a lot more things happening in the hips sometimes. In the thoracic, I felt all of a sudden something goes back into place, because I see a lot of that cervical thoracic area getting tight and bound up. So, but I feel like that really helps to unload, and it's the sustained for 10 seconds, 8-10 seconds, that just at that point where you're contracting and then release, taking a breath, contract, release, has a systemic benefit, I believe. So any questions? Any more questions? No? So I have another short video I wanted to show you to kind of wrap things up, kind of tie everything together. So, you have to turn it up, Laura, right?
Why was the gift linked to the
Wait,
party?
commercials have to go.
It was all there.
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome to Bryant Park and the 143rd running of the Bryant Park Stakes. I'm Alex Gordell. Here with me is Ben Rogers. Ben, we have a terrific race on our hands today with